Hello everybody, thank you for stopping by the channel. Today we would like to give you a quick rundown on how to repair your jerk, like the jerk that you'll be having in your car, especially the 2003 Chrysler Voyager, the 2003 Chrysler Voyager LX. So when you're driving, the car keeps jerking, and you know it's a transmission problem because it keeps jerking when you come to a full stop, and then you trying to accelerate from that stop. The car, before it moves, is jerks. Sometimes more than one time, sometimes two or three times. It keeps jerking as you're driving, and you know it's a transmission issue. Okay, and so we're gonna show you how to fix that. So basically, the problem with that is when you check your ODB scanner, you run the codes on your ODB scanner in the vehicle. It tells you it's a code 700, 750 or 755, something like that. But basically, and then one of them is going to tell you it's a solenoid, B solenoid. So B solenoid. So basically, this is what we're going to show you right now. We're going to show you the solenoid. It's basically a transmission solenoid valve that you need to replace, that you need to change, and that's what's causing the jerk issue. So the transmission valve is sitting at the front of the transmission. It's sitting at the front of the transmission. So you see right here, we're in the engine bay right here. You see right here, this is a coolant hose. This is your engine coolant tank, expansion tank right here. When you go underneath the hose, and then you reach your hand straight down, you reach straight down, you go straight down. This is your, right here is your transmission, and the transmission solenoid valve. That's what you need to replace to get your car running smoothly without the jerking and the shifting issue, right? And so when you're doing that, also sometimes this is your time, also the opportunity to change your input sensor. This is your input sensor. It's sitting right above the transmission valve, right? And then right next to it, to the right, across from it to the right, is also right here where I'm touching. Right here, right across from it, is your output sensor, output speed sensor. If also you need to change your speed, if your ODB scanner is telling you that you need to change your output speed sensor, this is where it is. It's located to the right of the other sensor, right? Okay, so both of those sensors are sitting right across from each other. So basically, when you down there, you can see down there when you look down here. So to be able to get to the bolt, when you're removing your engine, your transmission solenoid valve, when you're removing that, you're gonna need to get to a bolt. There's 3 bolts that you gotta remove to remove the transmission solenoid valve. There's one to the right here. There's one at the bottom, sitting at the bottom of the speed sensor, right? Directly at the bottom of the speed sensor. And then there's one that's to the left. To the left, right here. That's bolt right here to the left. So you gotta remove this bolt. There's one bolt sitting underneath the transmission, the input sensor. You gotta remove the input sensor first to get to that bolt. And then right here, you gotta remove that bolt also. But before you can get to this right here, to be able to work with enough space, you gotta remove the 2 coolant lines, one here and one here. I already removed them and I set them to the side. So there's one right here, the one that's right here, I set it to the side over here. Right here, you're gonna see it right here. I set it to the side, right on top of I put it to the side, right on top of the coolant thing, the coolant expansion tank. I set it right on top of it. Let me show it to you. It's a very small hose. Right here, see that? Right here. That's the one that's at the right. The other line, this one, I took it out also, and I set it to the left, right here. I set it to the left, right here, right next to the fan, okay? So I can be able to have space to be able to slide my tool, so I can be able to remove the bolt that's sitting underneath it, right? Okay, so those 3 bolts are 10 millimeters bolts, right? 10 millimeters to take them out, right? So this is the bolt. This is the tool that I use to remove the bolts. I use this ratchet right here, right? This ratchet right here, I use that, and then because the bolts are sitting down low in the engine, I use a long extension, and then there's my 10 millimeter socket right here, and then my long extension. That's for the 2 bolts on the right, right? But for the bolt that's all the way to the left of the transmission valve, which is the bolt that's all the way to the left. Okay, those 2 bolts, this one and the one that's sitting in the middle underneath the input sensor. This is the bolt that's sitting underneath the input sensor, and this bolt, I use the long extension that you saw. But for this one, the bolt that's all the way to the left, I use a shorter extension, a very short extension. I use this one. I use this one right here, and then I use this one right here, and then I use I use this one right here with the 10 millimeter socket, and then the way I was able to get it off is I use, you see right here, the exhaust rail right here, this thing right here, this sharp thing is sharp at the edge, so you gotta be careful with that. This thing, I slide my hand in between on the left side, right underneath the hose right here that's sitting on top of the engine. I slide my hand here through here, and then I reach across with my other hand, and then that's where I was able to ratchet the bolt that's all the way down here to the left. That's how I was able to ratchet it off. Okay, and then for the input sensor, which is right here, which I had to remove before I could get the bolt that's directly underneath of it off, I use a 25 millimeter socket, a 1/2 inch ratchet with a 25 millimeter socket to take it off. So it's not gonna be hard to take off. They're just plastic, so they're not gonna be screwed on very tight. They're not gonna be bolted on very tight. So it's gonna be not hard to take them off. So this is what I use. I use a 25. This is what I use. Exactly this. A 1/2 inch drive, 1/2 inch ratchet with a ratchet with a 1/2 inch drive, and then 25 millimeter socket, which is actually Dual Blast 25 millimeter socket from AutoZone, right? That's what I use. Right? That's the input sensor. But when I run my my scanner, my ODB scanner, you know, like your ODB scanner, you go to the front of the car. You go to the front of the car, and then you put your right here. You put your ODB scanner here, and I run the code. It rang me up for an output sensor, a bed output sensor, which I had to change also. So the output sensor, let me show you what the output sensor is, which I already showed it to you, I think, if I remember. The output sensor, you see the input sensor right here, right on top of the solenoid valve? To your right across from the right, is your output sensor. I already changed all of that. I changed this one, the output sensor. I changed the input sensor right here, and I was already changed the solenoid valve. So I already did the job already. I'm just showing you a quick rundown how to do it. So right here is your output sensor to your right. That's the one that have the at the end of it is going to be pointy at the end. So the output sensor is going to have like a pointy end, right? The input sensor will not have a pointy end. So the output sensor, this one is the one with the pointy end. This one right here, you're gonna use, it was harder for me to take it off. I could not use the 25 millimeter socket like I used for the input sensor, because I needed a deeper socket so for it to work. And plus, there's not much space for a deeper socket. If you're gonna use a deeper socket to get it off, there's not much space behind it for you to be able to take it off. So what I figured is, by the grace of God, I use a wrench. So I went to AutoZone and buy a 1-inch wrench. So I was looking for a 25 millimeter wrench. I could not find a 25 millimeter. They got 24 millimeters on the shelf and 27. They got that marked off, so they don't have a 25 marked off on the shelf for a 25 millimeter wrench. But what I did find was a 1-inch wrench. So that's what I used, and I used this end of the wrench, this part right here, this hole, not that part. That part is a little bit too big, maybe a little bit too big. So this is the part that you use to take off the output sensor. This part, and then you use it to put it on. And then when you put it on, you don't put it on too tight, but also you put it on tight enough so it can be on, so nothing leaks out of it. But at the same time, you know, you don't want to break it. You know, you don't want to go too hard on it. So this is what I use, this long wrench. See, very big wrench, 1-inch wrench. All right, and then for the hoses also, to get the hoses off, the two hoses, before you can get to the input sensor and the solenoid valve, I use this tool right here. This is a tool that you can use to take the clip that clip the hoses to the clip. This clip right here. It's on the. Let me. Where's one of the hoses so I could show the clip? Okay. See, there's the hose. You see that clip right here on the hose? This clip right here. This clip, right? That clip the hose, that hold the hose down, right? I use this. I use this tool. This is one of the best tools to use to take them off. One end, when you open this tool up, one end goes on one side of the clip and another end goes to one side of the clip, and then you press this down, right? And then you press this side to work it. See, close it, press it down to open, right? And then once you get it locked on, you press the clip down, and then you pull the clip up. You pull the clip up to remove the clip from the hose so you can take the hose off. And after that, to actually get the hose, to actually move the hose away from here and pull them back all the way off the lip. So that's gonna take time. That's a little work. So I had to use a flathead screwdriver, which I use a flathead screwdriver, you know, and I put it in the little space that was there. I put the flathead screwdriver there, and I keep pushing it back, you know, and I did the same for both of them. And then, but to get the hoses off, you have to unlock the hose from this piece here. So you gotta keep twisting it, and when it starts to move in a circular motion, that means you're unlocking the hose so you can be able to pull it back. So you keep twisting it and then pushing it back. You know, when you keep doing that, eventually you're gonna keep pushing it back, until you're able to take it off. But you gotta pull it also, but you gotta unlock it by twisting it. And then you can use your flathead screwdriver. Then after that, if you have a pry bar, you can use the pry bar to move it back further, and eventually you take it off. Yeah. So, but before I start this job, first I had to disconnect, because we had to take these clips off. These clips, you know, from the input speed sensor, you just pull the tab up, pull it up, and pull it out. Same thing with this one for the output sensor. There's a tab here. You just pull the tab up and then pull the connector out. You know, so whenever you're dealing with electrical stuff, like these connectors here, and also the solenoid valve also have a connector, which is right here with the bolt here. You always have to disconnect your battery, you know, so you don't have any kind of mishap with electricity, you know, so you don't get a short or something like that. So you have to disconnect your negative battery terminal. Then after I did that, you know, then I take the battery off. Then also I take the battery tray off, you know, so I can have space. There's the battery tray right here. I had to take it off. So to take the battery tray out, you got 3 holes in the battery tray. 1, 2, 3. Right? They're all 13 millimeters in my car. It's a 13 millimeter. The Chrysler Voyager was a 13 millimeter. There's the holes where they go. 1 here, That's one bolt, 13 millimeter. And then there's a stud here with a 13 millimeter nut. And then another stud for a 13 millimeter nut again, right here, right? And then this right here, this hose right here is connected to the battery tray right here. So you gotta pull that hose out, and then you're gonna hear air, something like that, come out. And then once you take these off, and also at the bottom of the tray, there was a little thing that was at the bottom of the tray. You need that also. This right here. This right here. You make sure you put that back on. You need that. This right here gotta be at the bottom of your tray, right here. This got to connect to the bottom of the tray, like so. All right. So basically, the one thing I also, with the solenoid valve, the connector that's on it, this is a 8 millimeter, preferably, because there's no space for you to move that bolt out because of this rail here sitting on top of it. There's not that much space, so it's best to have instead of using this 8 millimeter right here, because that's the one I use. I was able to get it done, but with little bit of space, instead of using this long 8 millimeter socket, it's better to use a short one, so you can have more space to be able to move the bolt back out and then put it back on. So basically, that's how you work this. That's how you do this. That's how you do this. See, I already put everything on already. There's the solenoid, the B solenoid, the solenoid valve, the transmission solenoid valve. That's going to stop the jerking, you know. And also to remind you guys, also when you remove the solenoid, to get the solenoid valve, once you get the 3 bolts off, to get the solenoid valve out, it's going to be stuck on the transmission. After you get the bolt out, you're not just going to be able to pull it out. It's going to be stuck. So what I used to get it off was, I use this very small pry bar like this very small pry bar. I use that, and I go to the left. I go to the left part of the left bottom part of the transmission valve. Let me show it to you. Hold on. I go to the left part of the transmission valve. See if I can show it. Yep, right there. Right here. See right here? Right here. There's that space right here, that little space right here. You stick that pry bar in there, and you press the pry bar down to pull it up. And then you keep doing that, and then it's gonna break free and come up. And then you can use another bigger pry bar to move it up, to get it, to push it, to move it out the way. Because the way the transmission solenoid valve is sitting on top of the transmission. On top of the transmission, so you gotta pull it up. You gotta pull it up to get it out. All right. Thank you for stopping by the channel. Hope this helps.